It is Wednesday, March 20th, and the Splash Zone is back in your life. I'm Matt Modi, and I'm here to give you my 4 favorite NBA player props for today's NBA betting slate. Of course, before I can get into today's picks, we got to do a recap from yesterday, which ended up being another pretty good, decent day. I had 5 picks total that I gave out yesterday. We got 3 of those 5 to cash. Unfortunately, we lost Gary Harris over his 3-point prop. That one hurt. Wemby, 25 plus points, didn't even come close. But we were able to cash out Jokic over 25.5 points. Should have laddered him to 30. We cashed out Dan Gafford over 10.5 points. That was a nice first half cash. And then I gave out Cam Thomas over 2.5 made 3-pointers. Gave that one out on my Dub Club and on Twitter. We got that one to cash at a pretty juicy plus 140 odds, which led us to our 3-2 day, about 1.46 units of profit. Didn't have any ladder plays yesterday, so 0 for 0, 0 profit there. On the entire season, the success has been incredible. We are up 78.68 units on the year. In ladder plays specifically, which I started tracking on February 24th, we are up 5.83 units. It's been amazing success that we've had. We're now at 4 straight green days for the Splash Zone. Let's hope we can keep it up and make it a 5th straight tonight. Make sure if you're not already to subscribe to my YouTube channel, like the video, comment, all that stuff does help me out a ton. But enough of that. I'm going to try to not ramble as much at the beginning of these videos. Let's get into today's picks. Let's see if we can splash around, get a little wet. The first play that we're locking in here, Kings versus Raptors. I'm taking Domantas Sabonis over 45.5 points, rebounds, assists, minus 108 odds at FanDuel. This is a play that I'm also going to ladder, kind of. I'm going to take him to record a triple-double as well. That's offered at plus 210 odds at FanDuel, and I'm going to go ahead and put a half unit on that bad boy. I just see this as a smash spot, absolute smash spot for Sabonis to rack up a bunch of stats. I get that 45.5 is a pretty high number for Sabonis, who doesn't score into the 30s. I also think that he could get 50 in this game between points and rebounds alone. That's why we're going with the PRA here. Obviously, I like his assists as well. But let's just go in order. Let's start with the points. So centers have just been having their way with the Raptors recently from all departments, mostly points and rebounds, and honestly assists too. They just have no depth in their backcourt, right? Jakob Poeltl was hurt. Kelly Olynyk is starting at center, and he's a good offensive player, but he's not a good defensive player. And he can just get eaten up by bruising centers like Sabonis. If you look at the entire season, they're allowing the 7th most points per game to Sabonis' shooting profile and the 4th most points per game to his playmaking style. And they've just gotten worse recently. So those stats are taking into account the entire season. And as I mentioned, they've been worse recently. Over the past 30 days, they're allowing the 3rd most points per game to centers. They're also allowing the 3rd most points per game over the past 2 weeks as well. But that number is like 3 points higher over the past 2 weeks than it is even over the past 30 days. So I see him easily clearing his over 21.5 points prop. Next up is the rebounds. And this one's going to sound silly. Check Sabonis' rebound prop. Before, if you can pause this, check what his over-under rebound prop is. It's set at 15.5, which is a crazy rebound number. I actually kind of like that to go over. I was close to just taking his rebound prop over. I know that sounds crazy, but number one, he's cleared that in 5 of his last 8 games. And if you look at his last 10 games, 2 of the games that he didn't clear 15.5 rebounds, he had exactly 15. And he had another game where he had 14. The rebound numbers that the Raptors have given up recently is just insane. And that's another reason why his prop is so high. Just look at centers against the Raptors recently. Jalen Duren had 23 rebounds against them. 23. In that same game, James Wiseman had 10 on an over-under of 3.5. Jokic had 17 against the Raptors. Nurkic had 14 on an over-under of 10.5. They're just giving up an obscene amount of rebounds to centers. And then as for assists, you'd be surprised to hear that they're also giving up a ton of assists to centers recently as well. 7 straight centers have cashed their assist over-under against the Raptors. Courtside Pal lists that the Raptors allow the 4th most assists per game to Sabonis' playmaking style. This is also a nice fade of recent results for his assists specifically. He's only gotten a combined 7 in his past 2 games, 2 and then 5 in his last 2 games. Prior to that, he had at least 8 assists in 5 straight games. So I like this as a bounce back opportunity for his assists. I like all of his props to go over individually, which is why I A, took him as a triple-double, B, took him over his PRA as well. That's our first play. Next up, this is in the Clippers versus Blazers game. I'm taking James Harden over 8.5 assists. This is at minus 104 odds at FanDuel. There was a time where Harden was a staple in the splash zone. We had him a bunch of times. He came through for us majority of the time, but the last couple times he didn't. So I took some time off. Now it's time. It's been enough. We're ready to buy back in on James Harden, who's actually been playing pretty well recently, and this is a great spot to buy in on James Harden's assists. So this is a number 8.5 that he's only gone over in 5 of his last 10 games. So half of his games doesn't sound great on paper, but look at the actual assist numbers that he's gotten in those 10 games. I just love his consistency. He's gotten at least 8 assists in 8 of 10 games, and in the 2 games he didn't have 8, he had 7. So his floor most likely is 8. And in this matchup, I think he has the ceiling definitely to get to 9, but I also might ladder him to get to 10 as well. I haven't done that yet. If I do, I will let everybody know via Twitter and my Dub Club. I haven't yet. I want to wait a little bit and see how it feels. But according to Courtside Pal, the Blazers give up the 4th most assists per game to James Harden's playmaking style. And this is another situation where Courtside Pal looks at the entire season. The Blazers have just gotten worse recently in terms of allowing assists to point guards. So since March 1st, and this data is via PropStack since March 1st, 11 of 14 point guards against the Blazers have cashed their assist over under. And it's kind of similar to the Raptors, where a lot of them are just smoking their assist line as well. Ayo Dosunmu had 10 assists on an over under of 4.5. CJ McCollum had 8 assists on an over under of 4.5. Peyton Pritchard had 8 assists. His over under was 2.5. Fred VanVleet had 10. His over under was 7.5. So not only have they been cashing, but they've been crushing their over. So for Harden to get to 9 assists, I really like that one. Again, I also like him to get to 10 as well. I'll see if I decide to ladder that, not doing it at this moment in time. That's our second play. Third up in the Bucks versus Celtics game, I'm taking Jason Tatum over 3.5 made 3-pointers, plus 120 odds. This one is at DraftKings. Another ladder play here, taking him to get to 5+ made 3-pointers as well, putting a half unit on that at plus 270 odds at FanDuel. This is a system play. Pull up 3-point guys who take a lot of pull up 3-pointers against the Bucks, just feast. It's a system play that I've been riding with all year. It's come through for me a lot, and it really is as simple as that. And the fact, I was shocked, to be honest, to see this play at plus 120 odds for Tatum to hit 4 or more 3-pointers. When you consider the matchup and when you consider the player, plus 120 odds is crazy. Maybe I'm missing something here. I just think that's nuts. And you got to start, let's start. You don't have to. We will start with the matchup first, because the Bucks, they've been bad all year guarding the 3-point line, but they've been especially bad recently. In the past 10 games, they are allowing the most made pull-up 3-pointers against them. They are allowing teams to attempt the most pull-up 3-pointers against them. And unsurprisingly, they have the highest frequency of shots against them be pull-up 3-pointers. 3 for 3. And Jason Tatum, not only by far does he take and make the most pull-up 3-pointers on the Celtics, he's actually among the tops in the NBA in terms of these attempts as well. He's attempting, and again, the past 10 games, which is the sample size I like to look at. In the past 10 games, he's attempting the 4th most pull-up 3-point attempts in the NBA, and he's making the 3rd most. I will admit, Jason Tatum, he has been on fire from deep recently. That normally makes me more nervous than anything. He's cashed his main line over of 3.5 made 3-pointers in 3 straight games, in 4 of 5 games, and in 7 of his last 10. So we're hoping that he continues this heater and then he makes at least 4, but 5 would be nice as well, 3-pointers in this juicy matchup against the Bucks. That's our third play. Fourth and final pick of the evening, 76ers versus Suns game. I'm taking Tyrese Maxiell over 3.5 made 3-pointers, plus 145 odds at bet 365. I'm also going to ladder him as well, of course, to make 5+ 3-pointers, plus 340 odds at FanDuel. I'm only putting 0.35 units on that one, which for me is $35. So whatever your normal unit size is, again, 0.35 on this ladder play. So I mentioned that the Bucks are tied for giving up. I actually might have forgotten that, but the Bucks are tied for giving up the most attempted pull-up 3-pointers against them. So they're tied for first. Guess the team that they are tied with over the past 10 games. That's right, that would be the Phoenix Suns. They are tied with the Bucks in terms of pull-up 3-point attempts allowed against them, and they are second only to the Bucks in terms of pull-up 3-pointers made against them. Overall, they're allowing the 3rd highest frequency of shots against them to be pull-up 3-pointers. They're very similar to the Bucks in the style of defense that they play. The reason why the Bucks give up so many pull-up three-pointers is because they play drop coverage with their center, Brook Lopez, which means guys off a pick and roll can pull up from three. It's the same thing with the Suns and Yusuf Nurkic. They give up a ton of pull-up three-pointers because of the way they play defense. And while Maxey doesn't attempt as many as Jason Tatum, he still is among the leaders in the NBA, like top 15 in both made and attempted pull-up three-pointers over the past 10 games. But he by far takes and makes the most on the Sixers. Now, he's only hit this once in his last 5 games, but look who he did it against. The Milwaukee Bucks. He made 5 three-pointers against the Bucks, which bodes well for us because it's a very similar style of defense, and he had cashed it in 3 of his previous 5 as well. So it's exactly what I talk about, not necessarily with the Tatum one, but that's how shooting works in the NBA. You make 5 three-pointers in one game. The other games, you don't even make 4 in your last 5. And then what? 5 games part of that, you make at least 4 in 3 of your 5 games. That's how 3-point props work. I also like Maxey does have a little bit of a floor here. In 3 of the 6 games that he missed, didn't make it to 4 3-pointers, he had 3. So he was 1 shot away. In this matchup, he should fire away from deep. He's basically the Sixers' only offense. And that's how we got 4 bangers for you guys to lock in. Again, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And the last thing I mention it at the end of every video, is I do have a Dub Club. It's only $5 a month, and I want to be clear, I'm not trying to sell some VIP picks package or anything like that. The way my Dub Club works is everything you see me give out for free, either on YouTube or on Twitter, I first send out on Dub Club. So if you don't want to watch the YouTube videos or you don't always have time, that's the Dub Club would be an option for you. Or, and the main reason why I decided to have the Dub Club in the first place is there were people who wanted to tail my picks and who would watch the YouTube videos. But by the time they watched them, the odds had changed. They were like, hey, I want to tail your picks. I like your picks, but the odds changed by the time I watched them on YouTube. That's why that's why I put out the Dub Club, right? I send everything to your phone immediately. As soon as I decide what a play is, it gets sent to your phone. But like I said, if you'd rather just get everything for free on YouTube, on Twitter, that's fine. I just wanted to give people the option. Whether you want to spend the $5 a month and use the Dub Club, whether you want to get them for free is totally fine with me. And that's all we got. Appreciate everybody for watching, and have a good one.